Nobody ever wants to be seen naked. It's one of the most embarrassing things ever. That's why we lock our doors, unafunga curtain, cause hauwezi taka kuonekana uchi. Iko na aibu. But nataka to appreciate story ya kuandethe kidogo. Ushaifikiria mwanaume na mwanamke wanaweza ishi mahali wakiwa uchi na hawana aibu? Hakuna aibu, hakuna wasiwasi, mko ndethe, naked, and nobody is really embarrassed. You're okay. In fact, that's recorded mahali kwa Bible that Adam and Eve, the man and the woman, they were naked and they were unashamed. Hebu fikiria ukiwa uchi na hauna aibu. Ni kitu not very easy to imagine. The other day nilikuwa mahali kwa barabara, nika traveling somewhere, then I saw some guys taking a shower kwa mto, and they were naked and unashamed, but walikuwa distance, wanaume upande yao, mademu upande yao. Nikasema some people wako na guts. But generally si wote tunaogopanga story ya kwa uchi. We like to be covered. Unavaa nguo ndio usikae kama una aibu. Na ukiimagine Adam na Eve walikuwa wasi wako ndethe and hawakuwa na aibu. They were okay, naked and unashamed until kitu ika happen. When they sinned against God, all of a sudden they discovered that they were naked. Now, ushaifikiria mse hata mwenye amevaa, mse haezi ona, hata nikakweka blindfold ama mtu akwe kipofu, anajua, you still know when you don't have your clothes on. Unajua? So swali ni, hawakuwa wanajua wako ndethe ama ni nini ili happen? All of a sudden they discovered that wako naked. Hawakuwa wanajua hiyo time yote? Hiyo kitu imefanya nifikirie sana. These guys must have known. They must have known that they were naked. But they were unashamed. All of a sudden they discovered they were naked. And then they were ashamed. What really happened? Hiyo ni swali najiuliza. Nini ili happen? Now, ebu switch from that. Imagine from that story tulilearn kumbe kwa uchi ni story noma sana, yani lazima uvae nguo. But imagine watoi kwanza upenda ile time wanatolewa nguo kwa nyumba, you know, they like to run up and down in the house when they are naked. It's so funny when you actually think about it, because they're so innocent. They don't have such a consciousness of their body parts, and they are comfortable like that because of the innocence. They don't see it as a big deal. And that's how kids are so innocent, and they manage to play around naked, and they're very comfortable with it. But as time grows, there's a certain consciousness that comes upon them. They begin to realize, I cannot walk around naked. I need to be covered. I need to look decent. Na hii story ya kwa uchi ni story ime transcend time. Many years ago, I think ilikuwa 1903, is probably one of the first documented naked protests. And the purpose here of protest ilikuwa to bring attention to those people who were protesting. But over the years kumekuwa na ma-protests zenye people are naked to not only draw attention to themselves, but also as a cause to promote their right to be nude. Wanasema hiyo right ya kwa uchi is just like the right of free speech. Ushafikiria hivyo? Inaitwa sijui social nudity. And some people are pushing for it. Mpaka kuna ma-libraries zenye unezaenda ukiwa uchi, unakapo ukisoma book, unapiga kitabu. Kuna ma-resort zenye wanakubaliwa wasiende wakiwa uchi. And bado society ija accept your story kabisa, because we don't see it as something that is decent and proper. As a matter of fact, those people who are pushing and advocating for nudity are trying to change our perception of nakedness. They're trying to make you realize that it's okay. Don't be too uncomfortable in your skin. Celebrate your birthday suit, Buddha. Celebrate that birthday suit. The idea is not really foreign. Usichekia wase uanze kufikiria wase ni wase wachafu sana, ushaona wase wametupa mbao. Don't think like that. Because hiyo idea ya kuwa uchi and unashamed pia ili come from God. Because Adam na Eve hawakuwa na nguo, they were naked and they were unashamed. So it's not really a strange thing about people being naked. But hii association ya shame, hii association ya kuwa uncomfortable about it inatoka wapi? Because kuna communities zingine utaenda upate wasa ndio wako uchi kabisa, maybe wamevaa tu skin kidogo hivi and they are comfortable with it. Initially kwa uchi was not associated with any shame until Adam and Eve wakasin. Then all of a sudden now they discovered they were naked. Hawalikuwa najua na nguo, but all of a sudden being naked became an issue. Being naked became an issue your time. Ndio wajifunike wenyewe, wajikave wenyewe, wajifunike. Because they had sinned against God. They had chosen their own way besides God's way. And all of a sudden they discovered they need to cover themselves. They were getting ashamed. What would make people ashamed? You don't want your nakedness to be seen. Now, from that time when they sinned, kuwa uchi ikakuwa associated with something that is shameful and indecent. And so it was no longer something to be glorified. Nakedness became something that should be covered because it is not decent. And so according to your understanding, all of a sudden now we became conscious, unajua, because you don't want to expose your body. There's a part of you that is to be kept as honorable and you have to cover yourself. But kuna hii twist, kuna hii division about that opinion because kuna wase wana celebrate nudity. As a matter of fact, sijui kama ushaisikia kuna a certain magazine issue wanafanyanga athletes inaitwanga body edition. Na wanafanya plays wa NBA, NFL, unapigwa na mpira ukiwa uchi because they're celebrating athleticism and the beauty of the human body. So you have to be comfortable in your skin. Usikuwe umeaibika sana juu ya ngozi yako. But now as we process this thing, I wonder, should we all be naked and comfortable with it, ama kuna some bigger issues about it? Now kumbuka Adam and Eve walikuwa naked na walikuwa comfortable with it, but what made them uncomfortable is when they sinned against God, when they took matters into their own hand. All of a sudden there's a consciousness of sin. There's a consciousness of sin. Why? Because now all of a sudden nudity na story ya uchi pia inakuwa associated na lust. So it is good to be covered because you don't want to provoke somebody else into lust, because it is something that is supposed to be a preserve of the one that you are intimate with. Not for everyone in the public. But siku hizi ile aibu ilikuwa associated na shame after Adam na Eve waanguke, now inakuwa associated na beauty, na glory, na grandeur, na style, na elegance. It's okay for mdem kuwa nude. It's okay for mwanaume pia kuwa nude because inaonekana it's such a great sex symbol. Ni kitu inakuwa praised na inakuwa appreciated. So what was now shameful after the fall of man has become grateful, has become something to be praised, has become something to be celebrated. So the twist here is that we are celebrating something that is shameful. Have we lost our mind, or have we kept our mind in this regard? So sahii unaona cheki mdema anaweza vaa tu nude, kanguo kafupi, akwe round china, kila msee anasema hiyo ndio look, hiyo ndio form, hiyo ndio the way to go. Sahii kwa music videos madem ndio hao lazima wa expose body yao, ndio hiyo kitu inakuwa praised, ndio kitu inakuwa lifted up. Why? Because kenye wana promote ni lust, kenye wana promote ni sexual desire, kenye wana promote ni something that is not supposed to be celebrated or appreciated within that context. It's actually an abuse of something that was meant for good. Na sasa nikifikiria vile Adam na Eve walifall wakakuwa guilty, I'm now thinking, what kind of nakedness were they experiencing? They were experiencing guilt and they were experiencing shame, and they tried to cover themselves because now they were depending on their self. When self checks in, we see our insufficiency. We see how short we come of God's glory. And the result of that is always shame. So what do you do with shame? You cover it. Then they covered it with fig trees and leaves. But sasa sisi pia tunaikava na fame, tunaikava na an image, tunaikava na do, tunakava nakedness yetu na all these artificial things, temporary feels tunafine. We are trying to cover our shame. Why? Because we have discovered we are short of God's standard. We are short. And so we cover up to protect our image. But you know, ukijikava na self, it never really works. And it never really is successful. So that's why God anakama anasema atakukava na garment ya salvation, na atakufunika na robe ya righteousness. Because now when you're covered by God, you don't have to depend on yourself. But his covering is one that brings completeness and wholeness in the inside of you. So, true nakedness is that vulnerability of acknowledging that by ourselves, we are not able to attain God's standard. And so we need him to cover us. To cover us because we see the shame and the shortcomings of ourselves. So we depend on God to cover us with his robe of righteousness and his garment of salvation. Na mimi naambia wasee, kama unataka kuwa uchi, please be naked when you are vulnerable to your God, but not naked physically. That is associated with lust and sexual desire. And it is destroying many lives in this generation and robbing women and men of their dignity. Some people ndio wapate likes, wapate following, lazima wakwe uchi. Ndio waweze kupata attention, because just by themselves, it is never enough. So they have to sell off their dignity in exchange for some attention. We will not do that. Tumekata hiyo story. For us, our nakedness is our brokenness before God. And when he covers us, we are okay to be covered by his salvation and his righteousness.